Well, as an anchor and reporter, CTV's Michele Brunoro is used to telling other people's stories. She never thought one day she'd be telling her own.
Last year, Michele was one of more than 3,800 women in British Columbia diagnosed with breast cancer. Tonight, we begin a series as she looks back on her journey.
Michelle's hope, and the hope of all of us here at CTV, that her story will raise awareness and let other women know they're not alone.
This is CTV News with Michele Brunoro.
January of 2019, I was still working.
In a statement, Fraser Health says
Still telling other people's stories, but off air, my life had been turned upside down, and those close to me were in shock.
Disbelief. I felt like, oh, they've got it wrong.
But doctors weren't wrong. I had breast cancer.
And you can see that there's a hypoechoic mass right in the area where there's that palpable lump.
Yeah, so that's what we're feeling. Eh?
Right, exactly.
Within weeks of diagnosis,
You had a ductal cancer, the invasive ductal cancer.
I would be undergoing surgery. At that point, no one could tell me what stage my cancer was or whether it had spread.
This monitors your oxygen saturation.
Tests showed the tumor was small, but Dr. Rhonda Jansen cautioned me it could be significantly bigger, with so-called fingers hidden on imaging because of dense breast tissue. Doctors also identified a second area of concern. I'd been given the choice of a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. With so many unknowns and the experience of my mom, a breast cancer survivor, I chose the mastectomy.
So when you go over to recovery and you wake up after surgery, you want to let the nurses know kind of where your pain level's at.
I felt strangely at peace as I waited for surgery, and somehow my mom kept all of us laughing.
So there it goes. Okay.
But the laughter abruptly ended, and my courage faded as I walked the long hallway to the operating room.
They're going to take really good care of you.
The goal for the medical team, remove all the cancer and do immediate reconstruction.
We always try to do the safest, simplest, straightforward thing for the patient given their cancer care, because there's always that chemotherapy and radiation schedule to consider in the background.
When I came out of surgery, nurses helped get my nausea under control. I would go home that same day, as all mastectomy patients surprisingly do, but it would be 2 weeks until the pathology was back. It would bring good news. Though a small second area of cancer was found in my breast, my tumor was less than 2 centimeters. My cancer was stage 1.
You had 3 sentinel lymph nodes removed, and none of them had tumor cells in it, so it hadn't spread there. The other good thing is that the blood vessels and the lymph vessels in the breast were clear.
Despite this, Dr. Jansen cautioned I might need more treatment and would see an oncologist. Just a formality, I thought. But cancer is complicated, and I would soon learn my battle was only just beginning. Michele Brunoro, CTV News, Abbotsford.
And we're so glad to have Michele back here at CTV News. You know at home the incredible work that she does. In Mijang, you know how difficult it is to look back on that journey and tell viewers that story. It is very personal.
Definitely, and it's brought back a lot of memories. 7 years ago, I had breast cancer, and the story was very similar. I was anchoring that day when I found out the diagnosis. And Michele, you know what, to her credit, she's done a great job of writing about it and letting people know about the journey. And I know through my experience, a lot of women have reached out to me saying that has helped them. So I'm glad that Michele's doing this as well.
CTV News anchor and reporter Michele Brunoro is a recent breast cancer survivor. And all this week, she is sharing the story of her journey with all of us.
Tonight, Michele shows us how even a stage 1 cancer can require very aggressive treatment, including chemotherapy.
Today, what's going to happen, I'm going to start an IV. The first drug that comes out is called doxorubicin. It's red.
It's my first day of chemotherapy, and it doesn't feel real.
everybody keeps saying you have a day where you crash.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about that. Okay.
For sure.
I spent weeks trying to mentally prepare myself as I pushed through a battery of tests.
Gentle fist.
Gentle. But sitting in the chemo room, I still can't believe it. How did someone with stage 1 cancer, a tumor less than 2 centimeters in size, now removed, end up here?
Even 1 centimeter worth of cancer is made up of billions and billions and billions of cells. What we worry about with a cancer is not the size necessarily only, but what's the risk of those cells having spread to other parts of the body?
Determining that risk and the best treatment is complex. One of many considerations whether the cancer is thought to be aggressive. Mine was. Chemotherapy would attack any rogue cells that escaped my surgery.
You may feel cool going up your arm, but it should not be painful.
That first day of treatment, there's a lot of information to take in.
The big thing with the treatment you're getting is nausea and vomiting, okay? You have fantastic anti-nausea pills.
But even with the best pills, I couldn't escape the sickness that would creep up during those initial months of chemo. With every drug, there seemed to be another side effect.
This drug also prevents you from sleeping really well. Some aches and pains, bladder infections, mouth sores, muscle and joint pain, fatigue.
She's like, compared to the other needles you're going to get, that one's nothing.
And they just kept coming.
I went into the shower and I came out with a big bald spot, so I got the hat on. And it's like, I don't know what to call these things, but I can't put a brush through this because this is just how it is now. And this is what literally happens now.
It's hard to see my hair come out in clumps.
Here we go. We're going to do it, my friend.
So I finally do what nurses have been urging me to do for weeks.
Look at that. I've never seen myself look like this.
Cancer is cruel and takes so much. This is one more thing.
We'll cry again later. Okay. Yes. Yes, we will.
I know it's just hair and that it will grow back, but it's part of who I am. I feel a sense of grief, but come to accept this. I am not defined by my hair, and losing it does not change who I am. My fight is bigger than this. Michele Brunoro, CTV News, Abbotsford.
Well, the numbers are staggering. Almost 27,000 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in Canada this year. That is 74 women every day.
This week on CTV News, Michele Brunoro is sharing her personal journey with breast cancer. Tonight, why women shouldn't just depend on a mammogram to reduce the risk.
If it's painful, you let me know.
Okay. Perhaps one of the things that alarmed me most as I battled breast cancer was how many other women I knew would face the same fight.
I was filled with so much fear.
Just 2 weeks after my diagnosis, a close childhood friend, Flo Keller, would get the same news about herself.
I think everyone around us was in shock.
In the span of a year, I would have 4 friends fighting this horrible disease. One of them was Sharon Zastowney. Diagnosed in April last year, we would talk about our struggles with chemo, but mostly we talked about all the ways we would celebrate when we beat the cancer that had crept into our bodies. But Sharon would never get that chance. By the time her cancer was found, it had spread. Just 2 months later, she was gone.
The thing that I noticed right away is there's a white spot here.
Sharon was one of close to 700 women who die because of breast cancer in BC each year. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed in their lifetime, accounting for 27% of all women's cancer cases in the province.
We see so many people in here who shouldn't be getting breast cancer who are.
Dr. Rhonda Jansen works out of the Breast Health Clinic in Surrey and says self-exams are crucial no matter your age.
The number of people in this clinic in their 30s with breast cancer is really high. So they're not in here because they've had an abnormal mammogram. They're in here because they've had a finding, something they've noticed or their family doctor has noticed.
She says women should know their breast density because the higher the density, the bigger the chance cancer could be missed on a mammogram. And if you fall in that category, you should be talking to your doctor.
And then the discussion with you and your family doctor may end up being, well, at this point, we're just going to examine you more frequently, or maybe we should do an ultrasound, or maybe we feel an area that's different, and that will send you down a different pathway.
It was dense breast tissue that hid the cancer that had been growing in me. Even though I did annual mammograms because of my family history, the cancer wasn't initially detected on imaging. It was a lump I found that alerted me something was wrong. But every woman is different, and even for those with dense breast tissue, a mammogram can catch the cancer. That's how my friend Flo was diagnosed.
Other technicians have seen it since and cannot even believe that she detected something. It was lobular cancer. So yeah, I feel very fortunate. She saved my life.
Saved her life and made her want to spread awareness.
I want women to take charge of their health. And so many go, I don't want a mammogram. It hurts. Cancer hurts more.
It not only hurts, it can kill. Michele Brunoro, CTV News, Abbotsford.
In January of 2019, CTV anchor and reporter Michele Brunoro suddenly found herself fighting breast cancer. Her treatment included surgery and then months of chemotherapy.
As Michele wraps up her journey tonight, she brings us the story of the day she reached a major milestone.
It was early on in chemotherapy that I first heard it. simple and celebratory, the sound signifying someone had just finished their final chemo. And it became like my call to keep fighting. I wanted to ring that bell.
I'm not sure if you're feeling any of the effects of the Benadryl right now.
But first I had to get through 5 months of chemo, slowly inching closer to the finish line with every week. And then finally,
I've just been so excited.
my last treatment day arrived.
Okay, so I want you to make a gentle fist for me.
My last needle.
Breathe in and roll out.
My last dose of drugs.
Oh my gosh, I think of how scary that was the first time that I was here.
I know.
It was scary.
Scary because of the side effects, some cognitive, some physical, some that would worsen after treatment ended.
So numbness to the top of your foot, like
Yes.
halfway, and then the bottom of your pads.
But I traded the risks for a better chance at a longer life, and I knew I was lucky. I had been diagnosed early. Even as chemo beat me down, it did not keep me from the places or the people I love.
We'll hang your dexamethasone first, which will be about 15 minutes.
Sitting here on this last day, part of me wants to forget this room. The other part knows I will always remember. The day my aunt and I had our chemo together, and how her attitude of hope continues to inspire me. The strangers who became friends, the support and prayers of loved ones who shifted their lives so I never came here alone.
Okay, sorry.
I hardly felt it.
Oh, good.
You did a fine job.
I won't forget the medical staff who cared for me, not just with professionalism, but compassion, making me believe I could get through this.
It's still dripping, isn't it? No, it's completely done? That's it? Oh my gosh. Are you going to miss me?
Absolutely.
I'll actually miss you.
When you come for your doctor's appointment, pop up and say hello. You're going to cry.
No.
Don't do that. You're going to make me cry.
Don't cry. It's good.
It's great.
Thank you very much for everything.
Outside the chemo room, I'm surprised how many friends and family are waiting.
Congratulations on your completion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to rock this thing.
And finally, I'm ringing the bell I've thought about for so long. It sounds like hope and healing, and for the first time since my diagnosis, I finally feel free. Michele Brunoro, CTV News, Abbotsford.
And Michele Brunoro joins us now live from her home to talk more about her journey. Good morning, Michele.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. So yes, in your career, I'm sure you've done so many stories on cancer, but this one was about you. Why did you decide to document your experience, and how powerful was that for you?
You know, I mean, I've been a journalist my whole life, and I grew up in a family where my mom has gone through a lot of illnesses. And to be honest, sometimes we would take pictures of her in the hospital or video her so that we could show her later on what she had come through. So when I started to document it, I didn't know for sure if I would publicly tell my story, but I knew that if I didn't have that at that time, I wouldn't have that opportunity. And I also knew that for me, it would be important to see how far I had come at the end of it.
I imagine it would also help sort of mentally remove yourself from what you were going through at the time.
Yeah, there were some times when I remember my first day of chemo where I was like, at times it was easy to sort of think it wasn't me, it was just part of something I was working on.
Right.
So sometimes, yeah.
So the drugs, the hair falling out, the needles, all of that, Michele, what do you want people to know most about what it's like to battle breast cancer?
You know, my goal through all this really is that I want to raise awareness. I want women to go and get their mammograms, to do their self-exams. And I want women going through this right now to have hope, to know that they can get through the other side of it. And even though it's so hard and it's life-changing, that in breast cancer in particular, the survival rate is very good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for many people, they haven't, including myself, not really witnessed what chemotherapy is like, and you gave us an inside look. Just how tough was that whole process?
You know, I never thought that I would have to go through chemotherapy. When I was done my surgery, my results were so positive. Like, you don't know until after you get your surgical results what stage of cancer you have. So I got my surgical results. They said I was stage 1. I was like, I'm free. Like, this is all good. But it was actually not until a few months later that I went, because everybody has to go speak with an oncologist, that I found out that because of how aggressive my cancer was, that I would have to go through chemotherapy. And I was very shocked about that. And it was the idea of just what it can do to your body and being sick a lot, especially with that initial drug. And then, of course, losing your hair. That was really hard. I've had long hair most of my life. And I will probably never, I'll never forget when it was that day that I came out of the shower and I had this huge bald spot. It was actually on this side. And it was just coming out in clumps. And it was very hard to make that decision. But of course, you have to just shave it because it was less stressful, as the nurses had kept telling me, to just shave it off than to see it come out in clumps all the time. So yeah, it was tough and the side effects were hard. But
you know what, Michelle?
You look like you're a movie star now.
You look absolutely beautiful. And as you said in your story, you're not defined by your hair, but your hair today looks awesome. Looks fantastic.
My crazy chemo curls. Lots of women, their hair, when it grows back in with curls. I'm not exactly sure why, but it does. Lots of other women tell me they had the same thing happen. Never had curly hair before.
What's the response been like since your story has aired and it continues through this week?
Yeah, so I had written a blog through it and through a part of my journey, and then also through telling my story on TV. The response from family and from friends and from viewers, people I don't even know, has been amazing. And the response from women who are going through this, or families who have loved ones going through it, they've been super supportive and also said that it's kind of helped them know that they can see the other end of it.
I'm sure you have helped so many people by sharing your story. Michelle, thanks for speaking with us this morning. It's good to have you back at work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.